Hello, everyone. Welcome to a thrilling new episode of Immigration Fridays. I'm your host, Prashanti Vedi, and in this week's episode, we will delve into the significant immigration changes that have been brought about by Trump administration's first 100 days in office. These changes profound impact on the immigration community. Let's dive deeper into this topic. President Trump's first 100 days, which concluded on April 30th, have been significant. As immigration attorneys, we've been navigating this complex landscape of new and constantly changing laws, and we're helping our clients adapt. In his first 100 days, the president has signed 143 executive orders. I think that is most by any president in American history. He has also issued 42 proclamations, 42 memorandums, followed by thousands of deportations. If we look at the central themes of his orders and proclamations, we see that number one, it is about militarization of the border. There's an increased focus on deportation and restricting of asylum seekers, aggressive enforcement, and an intensifying in the vetting process, and there is a challenge to the due process rights of immigrants. If we look into the key actions taken by the present administration during the first 100 days, we see the following. Introduction to the Laken-Riley Act. The Laken-Riley Act is a US law that expands mandatory detention for individuals without any legal status in the US who are arrested or charged with certain crimes, particularly those involved in theft, assault, and crimes resulting in death or serious bodily injury. So, the Laken-Riley Act has come into effect. The problem with the Laken-Riley Act is that often due process is overlooked and people are being deported even though they have not committed any crime or they have committed a crime which is maybe a misdemeanor or not a significant crime. The second is the Alien Enemies Act. Trump has started using an obscure 18th century War Powers Act to expand and expedite deportations. And this again raises concerns about potential violations of the constitutional right of due process, as outlined in the Fifth Amendment. Hundreds of Venezuelans have been deported using the Alien Enemies Act, and they've been sent to El Salvador, to the notorious Secot mega prison, where they still remain. In late March, a three-judge panel from the U.S. Court of Appeals in the D.C. district upheld a previous judgment and denied the White House the authority to use the Aliens Act, the Aliens Enemy Act. Now we have to see what happens. Most probably it'll find its way to the Supreme Court. Another significant change that was sought to be done was the removal of birthright citizenship. An executive order passed by the present administration in January itself tried to restrict birthright citizenship, especially for those individuals whose parents were out of status at the time of their birth. What happened in this case? Attorney generals from 22 states and ACLU and a group of pregnant women and several immigration advocates sued the Trump administration to stop this executive order from taking effect. The US district judges in 3 different states ruled to block the order. So presently the order has been blocked, but the White House is appealing to the Supreme Court. The US Supreme Court is going to be looking at this case and hearing this case on May 15th, and it's likely to make a decision by early summer. Another significant restriction is on the asylum program. In his first week, Trump signed executive orders and that paused the US refugee program and the asylum application program through the southern border. The administration also moved to end TPS, temporary protective status, to people from certain countries. As a result of this, people who actually entered into the country by asking for asylum or and people who got TPS are now potentially vulnerable to detention and deportation after having been allowed initially into the country. These cases are also being litigated in court. The first 100 days has also had a significant impact on legal immigration. The new administration increased vetting, aggressive enforcement, and they have also failed to adhere to due process rights of legal immigrants. One example of this is that we're seeing unusual RFEs for H's and for I-140 petitions and other non-immigrant petitions asking for biometrics. In one of the RFEs, the adjudicator wrote, "We have encountered potentially adverse information related to the beneficiary. To continue processing your application or petition, we require an updated address for the beneficiary so that we may collect biometrics data." It then asks that the beneficiary's current and updated residential address be submitted. In these cases, we are not giving them that information. We are pushing back, stating that they have to tell us what adverse information they have. This is again a violation of due process rights by not giving the petitioner or the beneficiary a chance to respond to the adverse information that they may have. And we fear that upon going for biometrics, these people will be detained by ICE. Another example of pushback or another example of increased vetting is the ICE CVIS terminations. Thousands of students have had their CVIS terminated for apparently either no reason at all, simply because they were arrested even if they were not convicted, or for petty offenses or for traffic violations. These cases also were litigated, and there are several lawsuits filed, including class action suits, and ICE stepped back on enforcing this policy, and now they are reinstating the terminated CVIS cases. So as you can see, these are tough times, and one needs to be cautious and one needs to stay updated with all the new government policies. So if you or someone you know is looking for assistance, my team is here to help and to give you advice. And with that, that's a wrap of Immigration Fridays. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. See you again next week. Thank you.